Hello out there, and I've got a video about some mods that I wanted to share with you today. We are going to be talking about the one specific model that I worked on recently, and this is the Kershaw Vapor 3. But more than that, I want to talk about what is the most interesting thing to me when it comes to looking at other people's mods and when it comes to deciding what to do with my own. It's the decisions that we make, you know, the choices that we make when it comes to what kind of etch to do and what kind of anno, and you know, when to polish a blade and when to etch it, and when to, you know, add color and when to keep things muted. You know, those kind of decisions when I'm looking at other people's work, those are the things that I look for first. Yeah, I definitely want to see like a good quality etch and nice clean lines and just whatever, you know, everybody did. Sure, but more than that, the thing that interests me the most is just what conceptual decisions they made. And so we're going to go through just some of the possibilities with that when it comes to etching. And we'll use this knife as an example. And the reason for that is that this knife, I've probably modded the Vapor 3 or 4 different times. At least maybe up to 6 of them. You know, I've had a bunch of them over the years. And it's just a lot of fun to etch because the first time I did one, you know, around all these holes, I added like a sort of like a bullet kind of splatter, and that with just an etch and then an acid wash, or even no wash and just a polishing, you know, depending on how you do it, it can pop out and look really cool. And what I found after doing this mod was that that wasn't as vibrant as it usually is, depending on some of the other choices that I make. I'm still pretty happy with what I did here, but yeah, it is just different, and so that's what made me think about just the choices that we make. So let's just go through this real quickly. What I did with the blade and with the clip was just a pretty standard polish. I used a Dremel tool, a brush, to remove the bead blast coating, and you can see some like left to right kind of like lines in the finish. And so I didn't sand it cleanly before I started polishing, and so that gives what I think is actually a pretty cool look to the actual finish on the blade, because you have those like left to right kind of just lines in the polish. I'm not really sure what to call them, but yeah, I just like the way that came out. It gives it a little bit of texture. And it was unintentional, and I realized it was going to happen once I started polishing, and I was like, yeah, let's just see where it goes. And yeah, I like where it went. So that worked out. And then yeah, so the etch here, so what I've always done is, you know, you nail polish around these circles, and then when you etch and have it come out, you can do a number of things with it. And I'll put in pictures of the process of, you know, how it got from the start all the way to here, so you can just see, you know, how that developed. But yeah, what I wanted to do was the acid stonewash and then try to hit anno onto that stonewash. And so this has a little bit of like a bronze look to it. It's like a brownish bronze that, you know, usually that acid stonewash would be gray. And so the bronze isn't quite as vibrant as maybe I would want it to be, but it still gives it more of a steampunky feel, and does sort of hit the overall goal of what I was shooting for when I did the knife. But like I said, there's a number of different possibilities, and depending on how you look at it, you know, you might think that maybe some of those other choices would have been better. So let's get into that. So I have a couple blades here that I also acid etched just for the sake of demonstration, to show you when you etch what some of your other choices might be. And I'll put in a video of just these blades, actually this one specifically, after just the regular etch. And you can see exactly what it looks like, you know, for a few seconds. See how, you know, it looks when it comes right out of the etchant for the first time with no kind of modification after that. You know, nail polish removed, and that's your first etch. But then after you remove the nail polish, you do have a number of different choices and a number of different things that you can do to create different results, right? So starting with this one, you know, on the left side you can see this is basically just the regular, just straight out of the etchant, But then if you completely polish down, you remove the etchant, and then you just have this like 2-layer kind of deal. And these up and down lines that you see, that's just a bad quality grind lines from what is a cheap blade. That really doesn't have anything to do with the etch. That's just there on the knife. So, but just looking, I mean, you see this pretty cool, similar color kind of offset etch. So that's one way of doing things. And that actually, with this kind of pattern, with that blood spatter pattern on this model, that always came out really well. But another thing you can do is something like this, is just take a piece of sandpaper and just lightly hit the acid etch, and then you have this really interesting kind of look where, you know, you have the lines blurred between where the etch starts and where the nail polish was. And so it just makes for a you know, pretty interesting finish. And then the other two options that I did were stonewash options. So this one right here is just an acid etch, where once you remove the nail polish, and let's try to bring it closer, let's see if you can see the stonewash. Yeah, once you remove the nail polish, you stonewash what you have. And so this satin right here is the original blade finish, and then the stonewash behind it. And on the other side, I did a dual layer acid etch with a stonewash. So you can see where it's raised, where I put it back into the acid, and then stonewash the whole thing. And just imagine, since we've been talking about this for a few minutes now, just imagine just with each of these options. One, these aren't all the options that you have, but two, with each of these options, you can do them to a different degree, you know, do them on different levels, do them in different ways to achieve more refined results depending on what you're going for. And again, that's just one of the things that I think about so much, especially when it comes to a model like this, you know, where those options like really dictate the way that the final product is going to look. And in this case, it's not so much about technique, it's not so much about being able to do it well, it's about conceptualizing what you want the finished product to look like and then making that happen. And there's just so many different options, you know, so many different ways that this mod could have come out pretty cool. And so again, it's just one of those things when I'm looking at other people's mods, you know, and seeing what they post on Instagram, you know, sometimes, yeah, I look at it and I'm like, wow, that's a beautiful etch, or that's a excellent stonewash. I can't believe they got it so clean and the color of it is perfect. And that's great and all. But the thing that impresses me the most is when I see someone who does something just really creative. You know, when I see someone who I know is really working through the process and, you know, thinking about all the options and putting the whole piece together as a whole really nicely. And there's some people out there who do that really, really well. So yeah, that's really it, guys. Just wanted to talk a little bit about that, maybe give you a little bit of insight if you haven't, you know, etched before, just to have an understanding of what some of the directions you could go are. So any questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, definitely let me know down below. Yeah, if you have people that you follow or that you know who do mods, definitely let me know about them so I can check out their stuff. But yeah, I appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good one.